Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast may contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, be sure to check out our show on our YouTube channel. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
At one point in Jumanji, the next level, a character says that getting old is a gift. Well, someone save the receipt because Reviews Without Remorse would like to return this gift. Joe is here, David is me, and I am here, and this is episode 151, and in this show we will discuss... Today we mourn the loss of four lesser-known icons. Rob Leibman, Caroll Spinney, Rene Auberjonois, and Sid Mead. And then, Jumanji is back, but now it's older? Joe and I take the plunge into Jumanji, the next level. What's up, partner?
What's up, brother? Happy New Year. I can't remember now if this is our second show after the New Year, but regardless, happy 2020 to you.
Happy 2020 to you. Hope this year is as clear a vision as the year implies.
I think it will be.
2020. Get it? 2020 vision. Get it?
Oh. I'm a little slow. Yeah, that was good.
Actually, one of my favorite memes going around right now, because they just recently announced the WandaVision TV show is actually coming out this year instead of 2021. So somebody took a blurry picture above a two-shot. It was, a blurry picture, and it said 2019, and then it was a clearer and then it was a clearer picture, and it was, Paul Bettany's Vision character from the movies, 2020. Get it? 2020 Vision.
I get it. Okay.
Get it. Boo. Anyway, let's get on with the festivities. What do you say?
Very good. Let's get to it.
What is it? Destroying. Doesn't that remind you of anyone? Zorro. Of course it is Zorro. I meant anyone else.
No? Who does it remind you of?
The shallow eyes, the shape of the head, the arrogant expression. I'm sorry to say, my friend, it reminds me of you.
Born October 11th, 1937 in New York City, lifelong New Yorker, Mr. Ron Leibman leaves a legacy that many people probably won't remember. Recently, he did voiceover work on the TV show Archer. He was also in The Sopranos. Probably a majority of the listeners will remember him as Rachel's father from the TV series Friends, Dr. Leonard Green. But he worked pretty steadily throughout the years, a very straightforward actor. One of my favorite parts that I remember him from was when National Lampoon had their big hit Animal House. Mad Magazine decided, well, we're going to do our own TV show, our own movies too, and did this one called Up the Academy, where he played Major von Leisman. And in fact, he hated the movie so much that he wound up being uncredited for the part, and yet to me, he was the best part of the movie. But to Joe and I feel a little presumptuous to say Joe and I, but I'm pretty sure him and I are on the same page on this one. All right? And granted, he was also in like Norma Ray. He was in some really solid movies for the time. But to us, we will always remember him as Alcalde Esteban in Zorro, the Gay Blade.
Say something like a sissy boy.
Something like a sissy boy.
You know what I mean. Lift! Like this. Swing your hips. Fire!
Swing your hips. Fire!
Ha-ha! Good! Now flap your ribs.
Flap your ribs.
And now say you naughty evil alcalde. Did I?
You naughty evil alcalde.
I'm going to do some terrible things to you.
How can you not forget the naughty evil alcalde Esteban in Zorro the Gay Blade, a movie that there is no way in hell would be made today, but is just so gloriously ridiculous and fun, and was a mainstay on HBO back in the 80s that I must have watched it a dozen times. Say something like a sissy boy.
Say something like a sissy boy. Yes, that was definitely a that we watched that many times as a youth, and yeah, like you said, it was on cable plenty of times. That was actually one of those movies where I kind of feel like it's sort of like the Batman series, where if you're, depending on what age you are when you're watching it, the jokes might just go right over your head, and you might just look at this like an adventure movie like any other. The music was great, everything was great, but then when you're older, you kind of get a lot more of the jokes. So it sort of works on both levels. So yeah, I that is sort of a definite guilty pleasure of mine, that movie.
It truly is, and the reason why we are bringing him up. He didn't have an illustrious career, but, you know, to us, he was kind of illustrious just for that, frankly. He died December 6th, 2019, and we're late covering him because we actually had to re-record one of our shows where we covered this. He was married to the actress Jessica Walter to the day he died. She of, goodness, what is that TV show that everybody loves? Arrested Development. Again, we're saying goodbye because God knows the Academy won't, so rest in peace, Mr. Leibman.
Hey, Fuzzy, look up ahead.
What is that?
Maybe we should give him a ride.
I don't know. He's pretty big. Hey there, wanna lift?
Oh, no thanks. I'm on my way to New York City to try to break into public television.
Good luck.
Born December 26, 1933 in Waltham, Massachusetts, Caroll Spinney is a man that everybody knows and has never seen, because throughout his entire career, he has played two of the most iconic characters ever, Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch.
Oh.
So illustrious was his career that he actually got a documentary not that long ago based on his life. He steadily worked as Big Bird and Oscar right up to the end. I mean, he was filming this year as Oscar and Big Bird this year, and even though he had already handed over most of the Big Bird duties to somebody else because it seems he was having problems walking, but he was still voicing the character right up until the end. He is an icon. There's no two ways about it. He has been part of children's lives for, gosh, man. I mean, he started back in 1969. What is that, 50 years now? That's two generations of kids who grew up to him. 3, potentially.
Wow.
4.
That is pretty amazing, especially when you consider that, I sort of, I hate to say this, but every time I watch something, even if it's just a commercial with the Muppets, and I still cringe at the different voices, and it makes you realize like how long Jim Henson has actually been gone. So the fact that this person had been working steadily doing that part for as long as he has, pretty amazing.
50-year career in the same part. I don't think there's an equal at this point. He died December 8th, 2019 at the age of 85 in Woodstock, Connecticut. And the world is a little bit poorer for it. Never heard a bad thing about the guy, kind of like Mr. Rogers. You know, you'll never hear a bad thing about Mr. Rogers. Never heard a bad thing about this guy, so.
Farewell, Big Bird. Thank you for everything.
Come on, Quark, move it along. You should be in the emergency shelter by now.
I'm not going to any emergency shelter. This is my bar, and I'm going to defend it.
Really? And how do you plan to do that?
With this.
You're going to hit them with a box?
No, this is my disruptor pistol, the one I used to carry in the old days when I was serving on that Ferengi freighter.
I thought you were the ship's cook.
That's right. Every member of that crew thought he was a food critic. If the Klingons try to get through these doors, I'll be ready for them.
Dear Quark, I used parts of your disruptor to fix the replicators. Will return them soon, Rom.
I will kill him.
With what?
Born June 1st, 1940 in New York City, Rene Auberjonois is truly an icon, at least to me, and I'm going to explain why. Now, first of all, if you look at his IMDb page, the first thing that's going to blow your mind is the fact that he has 228 credits to his name. There is not many TV shows that he hasn't been in. You could seriously look through the entire list. The Saving Grace, Avatar, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Young Justice, Grey's Anatomy. This guy's been in every frickin' thing right up to the gosh darn end. Okay, most recently, the Madam Secretary show. He played President James Buchanan recently in a movie called Raising Buchanan. This guy is one of those talents that you just never realize was out there. Probably his greatest work was in voiceover. Some of his greatest work was in voiceover. Like, people will talk about the movie. Do you remember the movie The Last Unicorn?
Yes, I do.
In that movie, he was the voice of the skeleton.
Okay.
Do you remember the skeleton who wanted to drink, you know?
Vaguely, yeah. Going back a long way for me.
He also voiced in a lot of the Disney movies. In The Little Mermaid, he was the chef and everything like that. He definitely deserves the time. This one is a little personal to me. He played the part of Odo in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And for those who follow the show, I consider Star Trek Deep Space Nine to be the best Star Trek TV series out there. Yes, even above the original series. And his character arc was one of the best arcs on that show. And every character on that show had an arc of some sort that happened, but his arc was just, to me, amazing. And he had this weird makeup on and stuff like that, and it's amazing what he was able to do with that makeup that basically kind of like planed out his face and didn't give a lot for expression. But he managed to just imbue it with such amazing life. Even when things got a little ridiculous, when a love story happened that I didn't feel like was really earned, he still managed to make it work. Because that's how talented this guy was. So, he died December 8th, again, 2019 in Los Angeles. And I really don't have anything else to say. The guy was an amazing talent, had an incredible speaking voice. Just trust me, you've seen this guy before, and he was outstanding, and he has gone way before his time. In another case of seen but unseen, just like Caroll Spinney, Sid Mead is a person who's had tremendous influence on the film industry as we know it. Who is Sid Mead? Gonna be very, very simple. He is a visualist. He is a production designer. Okay. The look of the look of the alien in Alien was absolutely H.R. Geiger. But the spaceships, both in Alien and Aliens, that was his design. The entire look of Blade Runner, that was his design. Short Circuit, that was his design. Tron, that was his design. That's who Sid Mead was. A visualist that imagined and did amazing artwork. He was also the production illustrator for Star Trek The Motion Picture. So the spaceships and all that other stuff, those were his designs. Sid Mead is a completely underrated part of film history, as far as I'm concerned. You look at his credits, he doesn't have a lot of credits, but what credits? And he's just listed as like visual futurist, like Tony Stark, but without the ability to actually build something. That was him.
You know what? I'm very glad you brought this one up because that. I'm glad you brought all of these up, frankly. But that is you're just like you said, that is a wildly underrated talent that has made an amazing, indelible impression on screen and on our experiences. I mean, that is pretty amazing, and that's I feel like all of those properties you mentioned, without that skill set, would not be what they are.
Agreed. He was very much a child of the early cinemas. He was a huge fan of like Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, and he just took that visual style and ran with it. The cars in Blade Runner, those were his designs. Just amazing work that this man did. And because not only did he imagine these future looks, but he also kept them very, very practical, which was really amazing to me, at least. Anyway, he died in Pasadena, California, at the age of 86, just before the new year, December 30th, 2019. And I don't have much. I hate doing RIPs, and after going through all these people, I'm a little emotional right now. So I'm just going to leave it there. Farewell, Sid.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done, sir.
You still talking to your friends?
It's complicated.
Many a tear has to fall.
When we first got together,
But it's all
we were different people.
in the game. All in the wonderful game.
Grandpa Eddie?
Anthony?
This is Martha and Bethany. This is Spencer's grandfather.
Nice to meet you.
Morning. Sorry to barge in on you.
You're not barging, he's barging.
Milo Walker.
Did you guys see Spencer?
The gang is back, but the game has changed. As they return to rescue one of their own, the players will have to brave parts unknown, from arid deserts to snowy mountains, to escape the world's most dangerous game. Written by... Okay, here we go. Written by Jake Kasdan, Jeff Pinker, and Scott Rosenberg. Based on the film Jumanji by Jonathan Henslaw, Greg Taylor, and Jim Strain. Based on the film story Jumanji by Greg Taylor, Jim Strain, and Chris Von Ellsberg. Based on the book by Chris Von Ellsberg. Directed by Jake Kasdan. Jumanji. The Next Level. Holy smokes, I'm just glad that I'm done with going through all that frickin' cast writing credits.
Yeah, this is the same thing last week, boy. I tell you, this franchise is certainly run by a committee.
You're not kidding. Thoughts? I started last week. I'm gonna defer to you for a minute. Go for it.
Well, let's see. I kind of feel like, well, I'll tell you what. I saw it, and I basically said to myself, well, it's pretty patently obvious that the people behind the film just sort of said, you know what? This cast really works well together. This is a really great little franchise, so we really have to do another one. So now we're kind of in sequel territory, which we haven't been yet so far with this franchise, which sort of sounds very backwards, because I felt the first one was very original. And then when time went by, the kind of reinvention of the last one, Welcome to the Jungle, was also very fresh and original. And now we have a full-blown sequel to the last one. So yeah, I kind of feel like my comments about this film are probably going to be similar to my comments about Die Hard 2 when we did that one. And I said... I simply said, you know what, in some respects, I'm not saying it's the perfect film, but in some respects, it's the perfect sequel, because it gave you enough of a, like, if you like the first one, you should like this one. It gives you the same characters, a lot of the same beats, same sort of action, etc. This one, same thing. If you liked the last one, you should like this one. They give you... more or less a lot of the very same beats as the last one. It's a very similar story, although I will say I think this one was fleshed out a little bit more. Gave you some more characters, some more backstory. I mean, for a pretty shallow structure, this one did give you a lot of characterization and a lot of backstory, and a lot of motivation for certain characters, and it definitely lets you get to know them much more. So again, as much as on one hand I find it to be, again, just like last time, very disposable, fun fluff, it also kind of takes it, as the title suggests, to the next level. I feel like it gives you more characters, more depth, and a couple twists and turns along the way, which we will talk about. So my preliminary thoughts is solid B+.
You know, it's funny, I'm the same way, but yet one of the things that we should explain is we actually saw this movie a while ago. I saw it a little longer ago than Joe did, and it's funny how, as I was trying to prepare myself for the show today, that I was trying desperately to try to remember something memorable about the movie. The one thing that this movie suffers from is, it's fun. It's one of those movies that it in the moment it's fun, and I laughed and I had a good time. And I absolutely remember all that. But yet it is almost by the numbers so much, and even granted, yes, it has depth, but it's so by the numbers that it's slightly forgettable. I mean, it came out December 13th. I saw it like the night of, and today is January 4th. So we're talking, for me, it's been like 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks since I saw the movie. And I watch a lot of other media, so that I'm sure a part of it is the fact that I've been watching other stuff. I've been, for example, trying to catch up on my movies for next year. Recently saw Richard Jewell. I'm going to be trying to see Knives Out a little bit later, and things like that. So I'm trying to fill for my top 10 list for next year. So maybe it's the fact that happened, but. I mean, I can't remember a really memorable action sequence within the movie. What I do remember is I really liked the way that they kind of rolled the characterizations a little bit. I liked the villain. I feel like my complaint from the last one was that the villain didn't feel fleshed out, and now here they fleshed it out a little more. And I felt he was a little more intimidating rather than just the head down, eyes up skull that poor Bobby Cannavale was stuck with. I kind of felt that Rory McKean's Jurgen was a more threatening villain in this movie than he was in the first movie. The addition of Danny DeVito and
Danny Glover.
Oh my! Thank you very much. The two Dannys, Danny Glover. Wow, I feel bad that I couldn't think that name off the top of my head. I'm getting so goddamn old. Was a nice touch. And because I had only seen the first trailer, I actually had some nice moments of surprise. Like when the character of Awkwafina was introduced. Ming Fleetwood, played by Awkwafina. I was pleasantly surprised by that because I didn't see too much of the trailers, and more so how some of the other characters got reintroduced back into it. So all told, I liked it, but I'm definitely putting an asterisk next to it simply because I'm having a difficult time remembering a lot of the details of the movie because it's been a little while. But I still feel positive about it. I felt it was well acted, well directed, and there were actual moments I felt of tension that I liked. So all told, yes, I'd recommend seeing this movie. If you say B+, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, and honestly, as you're describing it and saying it's very forgettable, very disposable, yeah. But that's pretty much exactly how I also felt about the first one. And that's why I kind of feel like, again, kind of the perfect sequel. It gave you what you liked about the first one, plus a little more. The idea that they didn't start out as their respective characters, that was interesting. I thought that, now Kevin Hart is playing the elderly, and by the way, spoiler alert, the fact that Kevin Hart is now playing the elderly Danny Glover character, I thought was a nice little twist. It gave them something different to do. And, the fact now that The Rock is playing Danny DeVito's old crusty character was funny. So yes. You know what I mean? It kind of gave them, now instead of just being the young teenager, now he's the old cranky Danny DeVito type, and it's and they all talk like kind of old New Yorkers who would be sitting in a deli complaining about the soup, whatever. So okay, again, nice little. You didn't give us exactly what we got from last time, but you gave us a nice twist on it. And then by way of sort of a cheat, they switch it up, 2/3 of the way through, and we get back to, our our regulars playing their characters from last time, and we finished things out that way. Meanwhile, other characters, like you said, the Aquafina character was the main character for a while in the beginning, and then she switches, and now Danny DeVito. She's doing the Danny DeVito bit. Okay, so yeah, clever. I mean, and it gave them all. I said in the last one that we have a bunch of very recognizable actors playing against type. Well, now they're doing that again, and now they're not simply playing the same characters as the last go around. They get a chance to do new characters. So again, it keeps it sort of fresh, yet familiar. So, again, well done. And by the way, as you were talking, you said, "Oh, it's been so long since we actually saw it now, so it's already a little rusty." When you start talking about the villain. The improved villain, I kind of went, oh yeah, who, what now? Yeah, there was a guy. Okay, right. I mean, that sort of stuff I just totally could not remember. It's really kind of the bigger beats that I can remember, the big ideas, that I did remember. There was a highlight, by the way. I had a moment as I was watching this where toward the end, when they're all back, by the way, when when everybody's back at home in their own bodies, and when Danny DeVito walks into the cafe and he starts talking to the woman who I guess is the new owner, played by Bebe Neuwirth.
Yeah, she's the character from the first one.
Right. I kind of was like, I at first I didn't make the connection. I was like, oh yeah, Bebe Neuwirth. Boy, I haven't seen her in anything lately. And then suddenly I was like, oh, wait a second, she was in the original. So she must be playing her same part. I was like, okay, all right, very clever, very nice little way to tie it all together. But yeah, I mean, so again, good moments and good wrap ups and everything, but like you said, just very, very forgettable.
Yeah, pretty much, and that's going to make doing this, review a little hard, but we could try. Yes, the honestly, probably my biggest problem with the movie. Not the forgettable part. That's fine because sometimes a movie is just kind of like a snapshot. It's a moment that you look at and you capture, but as time goes on, it fades, and sometimes that happens. Not every movie has to make a huge impression, but can still be an enjoyable romp, which I thought this was. But one of my biggest complaints about the movie is, frankly, I'm still not buying the reason why they went back. And that's kind of a big one. I felt like the character... I liked the way that the teenage characters progressed. I liked how they showed how they've changed. The fact that Bethany was being more worldly and more open, and Spencer was... he's in college, but he's still a little shaky and unsure about himself, and him and Martha and all that stuff. I kind of liked all of that, and I got where they were going with that, and that was fine. But to me, it still wasn't a motivation enough to roll the dice the way that he did again. And I just and it's kind of one of those things that it could be like a world breaker situation. A part of me was kind of hoping that maybe the game would just suck them back in, or maybe like a brother or sister, anything along those lines would have been great. Or the grandparents, the grandfather found the game and got sucked in, and they had to go in and rescue him. Any of those things would have been a better way than for him to just voluntarily go back in, and then the rest of the guys just being like, okay, now we've got to go in too. And that's hard. That's kind of a huge plot problem for me.
Yeah, I had that as well. I kind of... One of the things I noticed was that I felt like there was sort of a lot of, as much as I appreciated the depth and the characterization and the new characters, I did kind of feel as I was watching this, I was like, boy, this is a lot of setup. It's a lot of setup just to get them back into the thing. So they were trying to... does the movie take itself too seriously? Maybe that's a way to say it. Not so much that would bother me. But, they were trying to, they were definitely trying to give it more of a sense of legitimacy, I think. So yeah, and they went to a lot of trouble to show you that the Spencer character was, not having such a good time. He's feeling like a nobody again. He's getting pushed around again, and life is not going so well. So they do sort of at least flesh it out enough to get you to sort of understand why he would have made that decision, but. Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, it is kind of a big old character flaw that he actually went and did that, putting his friends at risk, who now had to go in to rescue him. And it does it puts a different spin on it. Like, well, okay, well, is this a terrifying game? Is this thing? And I talked at great length in the last two, frankly, about the idea that there is a force behind this game. Like, there is an entity behind this game, and is it a malevolent entity? The impression I was getting all along is that it is. This is a very whatever it is making these players dance for its entertainment, and you're sort of putting them in the Coliseum, etc. And then Spencer kind of goes, you know what, that was fun, I'm going to do it again. Yeah, I'm with you. It is a tiny bit tough to swallow. Again, I think they went to lengths to explain it, but it still kind of leaves you with the question, like, was that the right choice to get them back into the game?
I think he went back in. We gotta go get him.
Are you out of your mind? We haven't even picked our guys yet.
Oh, he's just part. All right.
You hear something?
Huh? Spencer.
Huh?
What?
Who are you?
Oh my God. You're Spencer's grandfather.
Are we in Florida?
And you?
Milo Walker. Did I die and turn into some kind of a small, muscular Boy Scout?
Are we dead?
Oh, not to mention that another thing that they did was suddenly they kind of they took the established abilities of each of the characters and they kind of shook it up a little bit just to be able to have this additional level, so to speak. All right, suddenly Kevin Hart's character is able to talk all languages, including to animals. Right. Okay, yeah. And I was like, what? Yeah. I mean, you kind of established that. I don't know. I kind of felt like that was a little pushing it. I mean, granted, there is this thing that in video games, it's like, when the sequel comes out, suddenly you have your powers before, but now you could do this. And it kind of felt a little contrived to me. But I wouldn't say world breaking for me. The choice for Spencer to go back in was kind of a world break for me. But honestly, once you get past that, then everything just kind of rolls. Everybody, talks to each other. When the Ming character shows up, and again, like I said, I hadn't seen any of the trailers after the first one, so I had no idea that Awkwafina was even in this movie. So when she shows up and she's going to try and steal the key from around the guy's neck or the stone. Oh my God, I can't even remember what the gosh darn MacGuffin is. Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, it's like, I remember that he has it around his neck at all times, but I can't remember what the hell the MacGuffin is now. Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, we kind of go round and round about the details of it, but it is just sort of a popcorn movie. It's it's a perfect holiday movie. Like, it's a perfect film to put out in December. So when you find yourself with a couple days off and a little, your vacation time is, and you got a couple free days and you got the nieces and nephews running around, it's a perfect 2 hours to go get a bellyache eating too much popcorn and Twizzlers and soda and how'd you like it? It was great. And then you go get pizza and that's it. And it really is. It's a highly disposable film. It's got a very short shelf life. It's not going to stick with you. I mean, it's sure not going to end up on either of our top 10s for this year. It's not that kind of a movie. No, yeah, enjoyable enough, but certainly not a top 10. Yeah, and the more I'm thinking about it now, it's like, I mean, and they even tried to set up like a sequel. You know, they mentioned that at one point the villain is like, you know, oh, I'm trading this to the so-and-so brothers. And I'm feeling like, oh, the so-and-so brothers, whatever the hell they were, those are the people that are going to be showing up in the sequel. You mark my words.
Yeah.
Because there's totally a sequel coming. They basically did that in the freaking closing cutscene.
Right, yeah. Well, there's actually a couple little hints, actually. There's that one. Then there was the scene, I guess she takes the repair guy downstairs. Oh, is this a video game? I can fix video games, etc. So that was like, okay, there's the big old window to the next one. And then one of the things I liked was the shot of the ostriches running down the street. Hinting, I guess, that the guy was already tinkering or something or other. What I liked about that is I sort of felt like it melded the first and second film, because I felt like the ostriches was running down the block was something that would have been in the original.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I thought I liked that. I thought that was pretty clever. And I like that, you know, again, it does pay service to the original. Like it kind of, there's a couple things in this that winks to the original, like the last one did. So that, I appreciated that.
I did too. I mean, there's a lot to like, but not a lot to remember. And it's really, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. It sounds like I'm saying, oh, don't go see this. I'm actually saying, please, go see this. I really would like to see.
Well, maybe not but...
okay, maybe not please, but yeah, you know, go see it if you feel so inclined.
You won't be disappointed if you want to just 2 hours of fluff entertainment.
Right, but just understand that it is 2 hours of, you know, fluff entertainment.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not going to come out of it debating like the way we debated Endgame, for example. But you know, but there's another point to add there. Okay. Now, Endgame was a 3-hour movie, and I remember a lot of that damn movie.
Yeah.
All right, a lot of that movie. It's to this day, and that movie came out in May. You know, I mean, how it's like just the iconic moment of I am Iron Man's snap is, you know, embedded into my brain, and I've seen the movie at most twice. Okay, there's just I feel like I'm kind of beating on it, but I'm really not meaning to beat on it. It's just that, in all honesty, I don't have a lot more to say about it because there's just not a lot about it. I'm trying to remember action beats. I remember the dune buggy scene, but barely. And I remember the monkeys, you know, on the bridges that are moving around. You know, such a video game trope. It was hysterical. I was giggling at that, but. I remember thinking that I enjoyed Awkwafina's little take on Danny DeVito. All right? I found that to be, you know, fun. And I really liked Rory McCain's antagonist. I enjoyed all of that, but I don't have a lot more to say.
Yeah. You know what I think might be one of the bigger problems with this film, and as much as I already sort of mentioned it as kind of a plus, it might actually hurt itself in the long run, but I think the idea that they switched the characterization around at about the 2/3 mark, I think that might have been a mistake, because you could look back at the first film, well, the Welcome to the Jungle. You look back at the last one, and even though again, that's disposable and forgettable as well, but you can remember the characters. You remember them very well. You remember their interactions. You remember, you know, Jack Black acting like a teenage girl, et cetera, et cetera. Here, you lose that. And you kind of, I think you have trouble attaching yourself to these characters. You can't really get too absorbed in them because, again, I can't remember who's doing what, who was what, where. It's almost like at the moment where you meet the Awkwafina character and you realize, oh, that's really Spencer. And so everyone it's kind of like, you know, like it's like that. Remember Freaky Friday?
Yes.
You know,
yes.
They're doing that, but they're doing it kind of halfway through the film where they're swapping things. Like it's almost like in the Welcome to the Jungle, because you have sort of like, how do I say this? You have two distinct characters. Like, for example, you have the selfie chick, the vapid selfie chick, And she goes into the character of Jack Black, who himself was like a professor or something or other.
Mm-hmm.
And you sort of took those two and merged them into one character. Like now we have, again, like a grown man who talks like a teenage girl. That's essentially a character that you stay with throughout the whole film. Here, they bounce around so much, you sort of forget who's who, you forget who's doing what, and the final product, like when you walk out and say, okay, well, did the ends justify the means, etc. That's where you kind of get, I think you get an extra level of just total forgettability. That you can't attach yourself to anything that really happened or which character was doing what and why. So yeah, I again, it's probably, if you're just trying to make forgettable fluff, that was probably a good move. But if you wanted something that you're going to take with you, that might have been a mistake.
Bethany? No! Rich?
I'm the old fat dude.
This can't be happening!
My hip sure feels good now.
Look at my thighs.
Look at your thighs.
Look at my thighs.
Okay, we have some issues here. The game is busted!
It was a game. I'm not it. I don't want to be it. Welcome to Jumanji.
And I think by your pause, we're looking at another 40-minute episode.
I hate to do it. I can't think of anything else to say. I'm really, really trying here. I'm reading the freaking Wikipedia page to get reminders of the plot. I'm doing that right now, and I'm like, I don't remember any of this. Frack. There's something to be said about freshly reviewing a movie. Wow. All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's. Why don't we get to our scores, brother?
All right. Might as well. Honestly, I'm taking a point away for the fact that I can't remember a lot. Okay. And I feel like it's weird too, because am I punishing this movie that I forgot? Because is it really the movie's fault that I forgot? Or is it just that I'm old and my brain, can't handle as much information as it used to?
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. I'm not 100% sure, because I feel like maybe I shouldn't be that unfair to the movie, because I do remember walking out of it feeling happy and satisfied when I saw it. But yeah, it's popcorn. It's popcorn at its finest. Maybe with a little bit of M&Ms in it or Raisinets if that's your thing. I gave the movie a 6. I mean, yeah, I know that I gave the previous one a 7, but I feel like when it all comes down to it, it's still fun. It's still enjoyable. I would still, if people ask, should I see it? I would say, sure, yeah, you should see it. But, just know what you're getting. And the fact that I can't remember anything is, yeah, I definitely, I started at a 7. I took off a point because I really can't remember anything that really stuck out to me. Bebe Neuwirth showing up was a bigger, oh, she's here, was like a bigger memory trigger than anything else. And it's a shame because we have fine performances from everybody's doing just fine in their parts. There's no real weakness in the actors at all. And I don't feel the action sequences were poorly directed. It's just, disposable.
I can't argue with anything you just said. I think I'll leave my score 7, though. I think, again, I did find it to be probably in some respects. If you're a big fan of the last one, I'm pretty sure you'll probably be a big fan of this one. Possibly even more so, because I think it's just sort of what they gave you before, plus a little more. So yeah, I'm with you. It's probably, you could argue that it's too much. They're trying to do too much, and because of that, it just kind of barrages you with stuff, with information that it's hard to keep track of it. I agree with that, but again, at the end of the day, I feel like it set out to be popcorn fluff, and it succeeds. So yeah, my 7 is still good, I think.
And I respect that, sir. But who asked you?
Who asked me? I think if there was one part that I just literally just kind of rolled my eyes at, I don't get why this is funny, and it was even worse here. The dance fighting.
The minute, ooh, baby, I love your way came up, I rolled my goddamn eyes.
Totally. I'm saying to myself, I first of all, if it was funny, I could kind of just go with it, but the dance fighting joke from the last one I thought was just kind of goofy and silly, and I'm saying to myself is like, I don't get the point of it. Is it just because playing a weird pop song in the middle of what's supposed to be a whole other world, this kind of the world you're in, we're in this castles and dragons and Pegasus and stuff, and oh look, there's a pop song that doesn't fit. Well, okay. Well, why do you have a tape deck radio in this world then, so she can hit the play button and play music? And just, I'm watching and I'm kind of going, but why is this dance fighting? They just play music and she just fights like normal. It's not even like she's kind of doing this hybrid where she's dancing or it's choreographed where she's doing something in tune with the music. It had nothing to do with the music. It was just, there was just music playing and she's just fighting. So I remember thinking like it was just such a cheap way for a gag, and I thought it just fell so flat. Like I didn't see any of the creativity behind that decision at all. So yeah, that was just really dumb.
Gonna grant you that, my man. You know what's funny? I actually recently watched a video where a bunch of stuntmen would sit and they would rate certain stunts and scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
at one point, it was one of the co-stunt coordinators for The Winter Soldier. And they talked about how Chris Evans is really good at fight choreographing because he's a dancer. He knows dance steps and dance moves and stuff like that. And they said fight choreography is mostly dancing, just with a little bit of extra fanciness. So with that in my mind, it makes even less sense to do this because it's like, are you trying to break down the walls of what fighting is supposed to be? Or something is something like that, but you're not even doing anything that's really in rhythm or in step. So yeah, I don't get that. I don't get what the appeal of that is, and we know there's going to be a part 3 or part 4, whatever you want to call it, part 3 of this trilogy, but part 4 of the series. I just hope they realize that little joke is starting to wear thin, if it even hits.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
For me, I'm going to go back to the whole reason they're back in Jumanji. That was seriously a deal breaker for me. And there's so many ways you could have handled that. Would they have been cliche? Probably. But the quote unquote twist that he went back in there voluntarily and not because, oh my God, Grandpa put me back in there. Now, yeah, okay, fine. Grandpa found the video game and accidentally went back in there and they have to go and rescue him would have been the cliche storyline for it to have happened. But it would have been believable considering, how they ended the last movie. If the first movie ended with them smashing it, and then, just a quick shot of, Spencer looking down and then looking at his friends and just kind of grabbing it real quick, I would have been fine. But they didn't even have any of that.
Yeah.
So that's a big plot hole to me, and that really needed to be filled.
I agree. Did they ever explain why the one girl doesn't get sucked in? Because the selfie girl never actually gets pulled in for a long time, and so she goes off and does her other stuff, and then kind of goes back later. Do they ever really explain why that is?
Nope, they don't. Game just arbitrarily decided, nope, not you.
Yeah, just okay. We got enough people. Goodbye.
Yep.
But
and it's not even they had enough people because there was that Nick Jonas character that was a fifth character choice that they established in the first movie was originally picked by the Alex character. So she could have gone in and maybe appeared as him or something like that. But no, they had to do this contrived thing of where they go get Colin Hanks and the two of them come back in together as young Nick Jonas and her as a horse.
Yeah, and they have the they have the out where they could say, well, the game was glitchy. The game was glitchy. It wasn't working properly. So now we can just do whatever we want and just blame it on that.
How about for your consideration?
Yeah, this is going to be a weird one, but I'm going to give it to the relationship between Danny DeVito and Danny Glover, which honestly, as I'm thinking about it in retrospect, I sort of feel like, oddly, that's the relationship I remember most. I almost feel like, in some ways, if you ask me who the main characters of this story is, it's really kind of those two. I feel like their story, the whole thing, they don't like each other. Danny DeVito just doesn't like him. And there's a whole backstory, which throughout the film, we learn what happened, that they owned the restaurant together. Danny DeVito wanted to retire, or rather, Danny Glover wanted to retire. Danny DeVito didn't want to. It was his whole life. And throughout the story, they patch things up, and there's a nice, graceful, dramatic, semi-sweet ending to that. And seriously, I kind of feel like that is the primary thing I walked away with from this film. If you ask me anything about Spencer and his girlfriend, I know and feel very little. Honestly, I feel like, well, I'm pretty sure they talk about why they broke up or why they drifted apart, what's going on with Spencer. He just doesn't like his life. And then I think at the end, did they kiss and make up? I can't really remember, but
yeah, they did. They did.
So there you go. I feel like that's the takeaway is the story, is the Danny DeVito, Danny Glover story, which I find to be odd, but I liked it. Maybe it could very well be that now I'm just old and now I identify easier with that conversation than with what was going on with the high school / college kids. But there you go. I thought that relationship was nice and fleshed out, and I was very able to get involved with their dynamic.
Dude, that's exactly what I put. Honestly, I felt that their story was the best story throughout the entire thing. It felt like the most realistic of relationships. The whole gang and where they went to was nice and everything, but I felt like Spencer lost characterization in this movie, whereas everybody else kind of moved forward a little bit. But the way that Danny DeVito and what was even more amazing about this movie is that even on the occasions when they started doing the body jumping and stuff like that, it still worked. I was kind of amazed by that. That, and even with The Rock doing his bad New York accent and everything like that, it still had a nice emotional resonance. So that when Danny DeVito's character decides to stay in the world, as opposed to going back and, facing his mortality, I thought that was like moving. So yeah, it was the best part of the movie to me. And maybe it is because we're old curmudgeons. I don't know. I don't care. It worked for me. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Maybe it is. Maybe we're looking at it now from, these are the characters we identify with most. I hope that's not total. I hope that's a little tongue in cheek on my part, but maybe not. But yeah, you're right. I felt like that's kind of where the movie led you. The movie sort of definitely directed you to them, to their story. And that the other stories, seriously, I know nothing about Fridge and what he's been up to. I know nothing about the Vapid Selfie girl or the other girl. The only thing I know about the other characters is that Spencer was not happy with his life, period. And that's it. So honestly, I felt like those other two really took over the movie, really.
And in a good way, in some respects, I feel. Yeah.
Without that, what do we got, frankly? Again, on one hand, I'm saying it's a positive that I think they fleshed this movie out more, this whole big story, by adding these characters. But actually, they really did just hijack, in a good way, but they hijacked the whole story, frankly.
This next venture is even more challenging. And remember, the future of Jumanji is in your hands.
I have one important question. Who is Jumanji?
Is that Barbara's boy?
We're gonna die.
We did die.
Are we in hell?
I knew it.
Oh my God.
This is a whole new thing.
You got to have eyes in the back of your head.
What in the Sam Hill?
What the hell is this?
It's your strengths and weaknesses.
Smoldering intensity?
It's a stupid face you make.
Huh?
What's going on? You having a heart attack? Breathe. Breathe. His whole left side is shutting down. Eddie.
Well, that's the end of the Jumanji series for us, my man.
You don't seem too upset about it.
enjoyable enough, but I'd like to get a little meat back on my bone. Thank you very much. There's nothing wrong with going to McDonald's and getting a hamburger.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm feeling like steak, man. We need some steak. Do you think we'll get some steak next week?
Yeah, I think we're going to get some serious steak next week, my friend.
I think so, too. The classic Christmas movie. The ultimate buddy cop movie. Am I putting my heart on my sleeve a little bit? Maybe. I don't care, because we're reviewing Lethal Weapon, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it. Our Christmas movie in mid-January, but you're welcome.
Yes. Sorry, we fell a little behind. We're going to catch up, though. Don't worry.
I will definitely take the heat for a great deal of that, so sorry about that. But
me too. I have just as much equal, because I fell behind doing the editing, too. So please don't take all the heat yourself, sir.
It is the holiday season, and both of us are looking at different career paths recently. So, yes, our schedules are a little nutty, but we're going to come back with Lethal Weapon.
Yes, indeed. And until next time, dude, short show, but still, I think we covered what we needed to cover.
Not even that short, but yes, we did. And thank you, my friend, and I will see you here next week. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube for spoiler-free reviews of new releases. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page on patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.